Preparadito, vamos. Hola, bona tarda a tothom. Buenas tardes, good afternoon, or good morning, whatever you are. We are the people of the ALRAS Association of Bluegrass and Old Time Music. The people also of the Barcelona Bluegrass Camp. We are people from Barcelona, Spain, and we are making a very good set of workshops about bluegrass music and all this kind of stuff. I will now make some announcements. Me paso a castellano otra vez, ¿vale? Recordaros que tenemos la iniciativa esta de Teaming para financiar estas actividades y otras muchas de las que hacemos a través de Teaming o a través de PayPal, que ahora mismo saldrá el link, ¿vale? O sea, tenemos si alguien está interesado en ayudarnos, en que podamos seguir haciendo estas actividades, tenemos una cuenta de PayPal para que podáis hacernos vuestros donativos y además recordar que tenemos unos sponsors fantásticos y maravillosos, como son Artist Works, una fantástica web de cursos online de música, y también VS Audio Systems, una empresa española que hace unos micrófonos para instrumentos fantásticos. Y hoy tendremos una gran primicia, que es un workshop de mandolina que, Luis, te dejo que digas alguna cosa porque me estoy quedando yo todo el micrófono.
Muchas gracias, Joan Manel, gràcies. Primer de tot, benvinguts tothom on estigueu. La veritat és que és un plaer que estigueu amb tots vosaltres. Ya veo que va viendo gente que empieza a decir hola, hola Juanjo, hola Antonio Rodríguez. Voy a pedir muchos aplausos. Si estáis en casa, coger el café, el té, la cerveza, el whisky, lo que tengáis, y brindad. Y un fuerte aplauso para Joan Manel, que es una máquina. Gracias a él, toda esta tecnología es posible. Y como ha dicho él, bueno, somos ALRAS, estamos en un año un poco complicado y queremos ofrecer algunas cosas y seguir vivos en el mundo de Bluegrass. Vamos a ofrecer este taller. ¡Hey, Jean-Marie Ramón, mon ami, bisous, Jean-Marie! Vale, perfecto. Entonces, lo que me gustaría también es recordaros un poco que estas actividades son gratuitas y, bueno, nos gustaría pues algunas donaciones, que donéis lo que podáis, va desde 1 euro como el teaming, 5 euros, 10 euros, lo que queráis y podáis, para que podamos seguir, pensar que todo este dinero va primero para el profesor. Todos estos profesores vienen a dar clase, pero obviamente no es gratis y desde ALRAS les pagamos y siempre todo lo que sea pagar más, pues siempre es bueno y la verdad que estamos muy contentos. Y bueno, como ha dicho John Manel antes, no me enrollo más y quiero presentaros al chico lunes Mandolin Mondays de esta semana. Es el mandolista Isaac Casas. Un por aplaudiment per ell.
Es fama de una semana, es de lunes a domingo, luego ya. Bueno, buenas tardes. Yo estoy aquí como un oyente más, o como un estudiante más de la clase. Yo estoy especialmente feliz y encantado de que sea Joe Walsh el que está hoy aquí, porque para mí es uno de los grandes, por muchas razones, por el tono que saca el instrumento, por la sensibilidad que tiene, por la capacidad de trascender los géneros musicales y tocar la parte más old time o más jazzy o más, incluso a veces cuestiones más casi funkies con algunos de los proyectos que tiene, y estoy deseoso de verle. Así que simplemente con ustedes, Joe Walsh.
Buenas tardes. Mucho gusto. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be with you. Thank you for sharing some time with me and including me in your beautiful series. I'm lucky enough to have been to Barcelona a couple times. What a beautiful place. So I'm honored to be with you. And thank you to Louis and Isaac and John. So I want to teach some stuff from my favorite mandolin player, the great David Grisman. And if you have questions, by all means, I'll change what I'm doing to try and answer your questions. So please send them in as they come up. But I have a few things I had prepared to show you. One of which is a beautiful introduction and solo that David Grisman played on a tune called East Virginia Blues. You might have heard of his record Tone Poems, and on that record it's called I Don't Want Your Mandolins, Mister, but it's the same melody as East Virginia Blues. Now, would you mind sharing the East Virginia Blues on the screen, and I can play it through? Yes. Hello, FK. Yes, that's right. I don't know how to respond here in the chat, but yes, that's correct. Well, maybe I'll play through this melody here while we're figuring out how to share it, and I think I can share it on my screen. Oh, great, beautiful. So I'll play this through. I'll try and play it close to what I wrote. It sounds like this. So the reason I picked this piece is that it's a beautiful example of how to play a lot of simple bluegrass melodies with a simple pattern that you can put in every key. So the idea is we'll learn this in the key of E flat, but you can use this pattern in any other key, and it's a really great way to get a bluegrass sound. And the way Grisman plays it is pretty much perfect for how you can do it without even shifting. So the first page, if you're looking at it, the idea is you put your first finger on the root note of the key you're in, and that gives us the first couple of measures. So, for example, yes, thank you for the cursor. That's beautiful. Thank you. Let's see. I'm going to make this bigger if I know how. Beautiful. So yes, the first screen, that first page, or the first couple of measures would sound like this: 2, 3, 4, 1. Oops, I added a note, but it's an easy thing to do. I'll try and do it without that added note. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let's do that again. 1. Let's do it again. 2, 1. And so this is, some of y'all might know this, but I want you to think of, instead of thinking of it as playing on E flat, think of it as playing on the 1 chord. So we're going to talk about 1, 4, and 5. I'm sure you know this, but if you can think of this numerically instead of E flat, A flat, and B flat, if you can think of it numerically, it makes it more usable in every key. And so I'm thinking about those notes that we're playing in those first 2 measures are the chord tones of the 1 chord, which is, important for lots of other situations. So that's our first phrase, and it's also using a little bit of that scale there. And as I said earlier, try and do this whole thing without shifting. This first part of the melody, we won't shift at all. So the next phrase goes to the 4 chord, and it sounds like this. Yeah, thank you. Amazing. It's like at the end of the first system, towards I guess measure 5 or 6. It would sound like this: 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Let's do it again. 1, 2. Let me figure out how to get on the camera. So you want to try and get that with your first finger, your middle, and then your pinky, and then your middle. So it's going from the 4 chord with these notes. Those are both chord tones of the 4 chord. The C and the E flat. And then it's going back to the 1 chord with that note. By all means, chime in with your chat if any questions, if there's anything confusing, or if I'm not saying it in a coherent way. But anyways, so that's our first couple of notes. Why don't we play from the top until there? 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Oh well, whoops, I missed it. 2, 3, 4, 1. And then the next line is very similar, right? It's almost the same, except for it ends down here, where we're playing that G note and that E flat, which are the chord tones of the 1 chord. And then, so we just have one last phrase here in this particular, this moment. There's one last phrase that brings us to the 5 chord, and it goes like this. Let's see. I'm going to try and zoom in on that. Oh, yeah, cool. So it arpeggiates the 1 chord and then goes to this note. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 2, 3, 4, 1. And so right now I can't see the measure numbers, but we're aiming for that measure that lands on an F note. So it goes G, B flat, F. Yeah. And so whenever we're in this position, you might know this closed scale. Whenever we're in this position, that note very often is used to make it sound like 5, the 5 chord. So when you hear that note, what I hear is I think maybe the 5 chord is happening. It doesn't mean it's always happening, but that's a really ideal note for making it sound like we're with that chord. So let's see. Why don't we play the whole thing, and then we'll talk about things we can learn from that. So from the top of that, it would go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Four, 1, 2. Hopefully I'm playing it right. Now, some of you probably listen to Grisman. One thing that I'm doing that's not on the page, but that is a big thing that he plays all the time is when you're going to do a note of tremolo, he often comes into it from the note below there. So, for example, he doesn't go straight to G. He goes F to G or F sharp to G. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing the chat. So unfortunately, I'm not seeing the chat. So if somebody says a question, perhaps one of you could put it in the private chat. That would be helpful. Thank you. So yeah, he's often will do that. And again, when you go that note on C that I'm tremoloing, a really beautiful thing that he does, and I think it's a nice sound to use all over the place, is he goes into that C, from the B flat below. So one thing you could practice would be going into any note that you're tremoloing from the note below. Another thing that I'm not doing that I didn't quite communicate on the page, but whenever you play the third note of the scale, so that's the note that's the ring finger, you can often slide into that. So the beauty of playing in this position is you can think of, again, numerically. So this is 1, 2, 3 in the key. So instead of thinking, what's the third of E flat, I can just picture, oh yeah, it's this note, no matter what key I'm in. And if you know you're playing the third, it's very beautiful and common to sometimes flat it when you're going into it. So for example, instead of going like E, G, B flat, G, you could slide into both of those Gs. I'll do that again. Now what I just did, of course, is instead of, sometimes you might want to go 3, 2, 1. And in those situations, it's really beautiful to go, if you know, to have that little blues sound. So I'm flatting instead of the third. You can flat the third and then and use that to get down to the 2. So let's move this around a few places, and the first place that we can move it that's the easiest, and it's exactly what Grisman does on the recording, is to move it up an octave. So right now, of course, our first finger is on E flat, and hopefully you know that if you play a scale, you end up with another E flat with your pinky up here. So an easy way to use this again would be to put your first finger where your pinky was. Let's see. Yeah, I still not see the chat, but that's okay. Let's try it up an octave. So everybody put your first finger on the 6th fret of the A string. And we're going to try and do the exact same pattern. So it would sound like this. 2, 3, 4, 1. Oops. I can't help but change it. Sorry. I'll try and keep it more standardized. There's a... Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing the other one. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so it sounds like this. 2, 3, 4, 1. Boy, I can't figure out which one. There we go. 2, 3, 4, 1. Three, 4, 1, 2. Three, 4, 1. So there's a couple of things I could show you, and make sure I don't forget. But the beautiful thing, the biggest idea is that we have, I think of it as movable ear training. So I'm not thinking of note names. I'm just thinking of the relationship relative to this root note. And I can picture that sound up here with my middle finger. So one way, you may already do this, but one way to practice this would be to make yourself play this in other keys. So you've played it in E flat. Most other keys are going to be easier. So let's try it in the key that you might actually use. Let's try it in G. So you could put your first finger on the 5th fret of the D string, and try and remember those patterns, those fingerings, and try and avoid shifting. For some people, that's a very common inclination. But if you can do this without shifting, you start to standardize which finger you're using, and associate sounds with this finger or that finger. and it becomes more intuitive. So that same thing in G would sound like this: 2, 3, 4, 1. Ooh. Now let's try it in another key as well. Let's try it in the key of C. So again, to use this idea, you're trying to put your first finger on the root note of the key you're in, and then visualize everything relative to that. So let's put our first finger on this C right here, the 3rd fret of the A string. So how about let's play that in C, and then I'll get to your question about double stops. So once in C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Three, 4, 1, 2. Great. So yeah, so hopefully this is becoming easier. And yeah, we should add some double stops to this. If this is something that's new to you, the way I suggest practicing it is to learn as many songs as possible in this same position. And ones that would be easy include Long Journey Home, which you might also know as $2 Bill. Let's see, I'll Fly Away, Will the Circle Be Unbroken. These songs would all be good ones to learn. And if you make yourself learn them by ear, you start to get better at hearing which finger you're going to use for which melody note, and it becomes more natural. So double stops. Let's go back to our original key of E flat, and I'll show you some double stops. So if you were, if you're here on E flat, so there's 2 easy ways to play the 1 chord, and the most common ones are this one where you start with here's our root note, and then when I play this note as a 1 chord, I always think of this note. I don't always play it, but it's always an option. So the note that's 2 frets higher and 1 string lower. So in this case, the 3rd fret and the 3rd fret of the G string and the 1st fret of the D string. So that's one shape for one shape for the 1 chord. And then another shape for the 1 chord is right here, the 5th fret of the D string and the 1st fret of the A string. So our 2 1 chord shapes would be down here and here. And these shapes are beautiful because if you move this shape, this one that I'm using for 1, if you move it to the lower string, now I'm playing 4. So for example, that same shape that here gave me 1 gives me the 4 chord. Now, if we go back to this shape here with 1 on the D string and 3rd fret on the G string, if you move this shape to a higher pair of strings, see how this melody note is the one that I was saying earlier? It's the melody note that sounds like 5. This is the shape that you can use for 5 chord. That's the easiest one to get to. There's other ones, but that's the place to start. with those shapes. Now on this particular melody, that's the melody note. And so when I'm playing a melody note and I want to add a double stop, I imagine, I try to picture what shapes I know for that chord. In this case, we just played 4 like that. I don't want to play all of those notes, but I might do this, and that would give me a double stop. So another place you could do that would be, so this one's harder to visualize, but you could add, so the 3rd fret on the A string plus the 6th fret of the D string. It's a little harder to play, but it's there. So let's see. I told you I was going to show you 2 more things about about this. Let's go play this once more up an octave. So we played it down here, of course. And then if you put your first finger on the 6th fret of the A string, let's play it up there. So I'm going to play it once through so we get more acclimated up there again. And then we'll talk about some things. Thank you. So up here, 2, 3, 4, 1. So I tried to add some double stops there for you to give you an example of that. And the thing I wanted to show you relative to playing it up here, when you're here, when your one chord, when your root note is here, and you're using that shape for your one chord, it's very common at the end to do a phrase like this. So what I'm doing is, this note right here, the 8th fret on the D string, is a chord tone. That note, the 5th fret on the D string, is also a chord tone. And I'm connecting them like this. So that's a very common phrase, and you can do it in lots of different ways. But in this case, if I went from the end of the melody, it's kind of like punctuation. It's a nice way to wrap it up. And the last thing, I don't know if you are all mandolin players, but for those of you that are, one thing that Grisman does that I think is a beautiful, really expressive way to use this idea and this tremolo and these notes is that he does a tremolo where it's not always the same speed with the right hand and the same dynamics. So I'll give you an example. I'll try to give you, make it clear. So he does things like, instead of that, where it's the same speed with the right hand and the same volume, he'll do something like, I'll do it again. So sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower, sometimes it's louder, sometimes it's quieter, of course. Are there any questions? I hope this makes sense. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I also have, I brought in a tune from the great Tony Rice, the great legendary guitar player who just passed away. And it's a tune in a different feel. And I like this tune. It's a great tune to play. Also, I thought it could be a vehicle for talking about how to practice arpeggios with the goal of becoming better improvisers. So let's learn the tune. Why don't we read through the tune, and then I'll show you how you might think about practicing these arpeggios in what I call what at Berklee they call voice-led arpeggios, and hopefully I can describe that well. I wrote up some worksheets for that. But first of all, let's just check out the tune. So it's called Old Gray Coat. I think there should be a PDF with tab for that. And it's in this feel. So we're in 3/4, and it's not a 3/4 like this. The underlying groove is more a dotted quarter. So like 1. So if maybe I'll loop the first 4 measures just to get us used to that sound. So I'm going to go E minor, D, C, B. It's a great tune. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. If you think of maybe you know the tune that great Tim O'Brien tune, Land's End, and that's one that also you can use the same groove on, and it's fun because you can, when you have that groove, there's many things you can do with that. One of them is, let's say I'm mostly doing that, down, up, but then you can sometimes use the 3/4 idea. So maybe I'll show you an example. So sometimes instead of going the dotted quarter note, so of course on the first 4 bars I did the dotted quarter note, and on the second you can, I was trying to demonstrate the 3/4 thing, but mixing them up even just one measure at a time could be really good. So that's the tune, or the groove. The tune goes like this. Let's see. Let me give me 1 second. Lead sheet. Making sure that we're sharing the right file. Right. Yes. Thank you. So that one, I think that one we'll use in a minute, but not just yet. That one is the exercise. That's it. Yes. Beautiful. So why don't we try and read through the A section? And hopefully we can start to get to know this tune a little bit that way. And it would sound like, I'll try and keep it slow. How about a 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Here we go again. 2, 3. Oh, I keep forgetting to play the melody there. Sorry. Let's try it again. I'll try and play the melody all the way through. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Here comes again. Here goes again. Beautiful. So we'll check out the B part in a moment. One thing, if you want that sound, that dotted quarter note sound, for any of you who are playing with a pick, if you can think of it as down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, that can help. It makes it easier. Makes it easier to use that sound. So let's read the B part. This tune is all based on basically one idea. He makes a lot of use out of that idea. And the B part, it continues. So we have there. That begins right where it says D minor. I'll try that again. We go 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. And then it's similar on C minor. It goes like this: 1, 2, 3. And that's kind of that slippery thing to get us back to the key of E minor. So it's kind of an interesting B part. It goes D minor, E minor, B flat, A minor, C minor, D minor, C minor, B dominant, B7. So that's an unusual chord progression, right? And that's part of the reason I brought this tune in today. It's a fun tune. Hopefully it uses chords that we're used to, that you all know, but it's an unusual combination. And when I have tunes like that where I'm not used to this combination of this chord plus that chord going to that chord, I like to practice the arpeggios in what I called voice-led arpeggios. So the idea is, I know all these chords. I know E minor, I know D, I know C, etc. But I want to be able to flow through the chords and have the ideas go where they want to go without having to always play the root note. So it's very common, of course, to begin a chord on the root note. Maybe we can look at the top of the page. Thank you. And maybe we can just play through the chords, the first 4 chords. And so what I'm trying to work away from, good. What I'm trying to work to not have to do is this. Normally we start hello. Normally we start with a lot of times the root note of the chord, But if we always do that, it doesn't feel musical. So I want to be able to be able to begin ideas on the 3rd or the 5th or the 7th of each chord. And I want to be able to go up, down. I want to know the chords well enough that I can go any direction and connect them in any part. So, for example, when I'm going from E minor to D, I want to know how to do that here on this string, or this string, or this one, or this one. And using this, practicing arpeggios in a certain way can show us how to make those connections. So I'm going to try and explain the idea, and please ask questions if it's not clear. But the idea is I'm going to begin on the first chord, the E minor, and I'm going to play, in every measure, I'll play 3 notes. And so let's say I began on E minor. I think there's a page we could look at. Perfect. Exactly. Beautiful. Yeah, the one, that's the perfect one. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to play E minor, and the notes of E minor are, of course, E, G, B. And so, of course, you can play those here, but you can also play them above and below there. And so one thing is we want to be able to picture all of these chords, E minor, D, all of them like that, all the way across. And now what we're practicing is when I run out of the measure of E minor, I want to begin the measure of D, but I want to begin it in the closest note to where I left off. So we'll play 3 notes per measure, and then whatever our last note of the first measure is, the next measure begins on the nearest note that keeps going in the same direction. So we did E minor, we've got E, G, B, and then we get to D, and the nearest D chord tone, if we're keeping going up, would be D. That's helpful, that's easy. So I did 3 notes for D. Now, when we get to the top of our range, we're going to turn around. So now I'm going to start the C chord on the nearest note. We ended on A. Now try and picture the nearest chord tone for C. You've got G is the nearest note. So I'm going to begin my C chord, but instead of beginning it down here, I'm going to go the opposite direction. So there's a C chord. And we ended our C chord on this C note. And the nearest place to play that B chord, of course, would be this B note. And it's a B7 chord. So it would sound like this. So listen to what this sounds like. I'm going to play those first 4 measures. I'll show you how it would sound if I did only the root note, if I began the root note for every chord, and then I'll show you how it would sound the way we just did it. So it sounds like this. That's with, of course, the root note, and here's with the voice lead. And that's nice because you can I think that's more musical, because we want to have the ability for our idea to keep going, but to change the notes we're aiming for. So let's try and play through. Does this make sense, by the way? Is this making sense to everybody? Nobody's saying no. Beautiful, Mando man. Perfect. Good. Let's go slowly. So I know this is a new song, so we don't know the chords that well. So I will go measure by measure and tell you how I'm thinking about it. So back from the top, we have a measure of E minor. In this case, let's begin on E. We've got 3 notes for E minor. So we're going to go up, E, G, B, and then 3 notes for the D chord. We're still going up until we reach the top. Beautiful. We got D, F sharp, A, and now we've reached the top of our range. Let's turn around. We're going to play a C chord starting on the nearest note, which again is G. There's the end of our C chord. Let's begin a measure of B7, and we'll begin on the nearest note, which is B. So we played B, A, F sharp. Now we have a measure of E minor. Our last note was F sharp. E is right here, but let's keep going down. We're going downwards. So now we've got the same notes of E minor, but this time we're going down. So we've got E, B, G. And let's see, what's our next chord? A. So we've just did E, B, G. Now we could begin A on A. A, C sharp, E. And we're going to keep going up, but we're going to change the notes we're playing to be a part of a C chord. So we're going to go G, C, E. And then we have one measure of B7. We just ended on E. So let's play. Hopefully that's what's on the page. I can't see. Oh, perfect. You have a cursor on it. And it's the same thing I'm playing. Success. So we got there to B. And now that means that we're going back to an E minor chord there in measure, I think it might be measure 9. And we've ended here on the B7 chord, which means that our nearest chord tone for E minor would be G. So we're going to go G, E, B. Listen to how beautiful this sounds. It's a nice, it flows from the E minor chord to the D chord. And then I didn't say it. Sorry, I rushed. We've got E minor gives us G, E, B. And then the D chord is A, F sharp, D. And if we keep going, we have a C chord beginning on this C, G, C. And then let's listen to those 3 measures. It sounds like this. So we're changing chords, but there's that beautiful shape just going descending the whole time, which I love. It's a really beautiful sound. So I hope this concept is clear. I wrote out this page, and then I wrote out another version of this. The way I practice this usually on the song that I'm going to practice, whenever you begin, try to start on a different note every time. Because if I always start on this note, I always make the same connections, right? Great. So the idea is, if I start on a different note every day, I have to learn a different connection because of every note after that has changed. So what if we try and read all the way through this the way I've written it out, and then we'll try and read through the other page, which I wrote out starting with a different note, so we learn different connections. Also, before we run out of time, if there's questions, but please let me know. But let's read through that page. I'm going to try and, I can't see it very well, but I'm going to open it up on my desktop. Let's see. Beautiful. That actually helps. Okay, so we've got from the top, and we'll read all the way through the bottom. And of course, our notes will change as we go into the B part. And we'll take a repeat. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. E minor. Now here's D. Here's C. Here's B7. E minor. A. C. Now B7. E minor going downwards. Now D. C. B7. Now we have A. It kind of hangs out on A for a long time. Whoops. Now we go E minor. C. B. E minor. C. B7. E minor. D. C. B7. A. And still A. I'll explain this G there. But let's go to the B part. We go D minor. E minor. B flat. A minor. C minor. D minor. C minor. B7. And then where are we at? E minor. Coming down like this. D, C, and then B7. A. And still more A. Great. So there in measure 16, I added a G note. I should have. I'm thinking of it as an A7. So if you think of it as an A7, instead of it just being those notes, you can also add a G note, of course. Okay, well, let's check it out in the other version. So I wrote out a different version. Oh, beautiful. I'm glad to hear that, Bruce. That's great. Awesome. That's great. Yeah, let's check out the other version. So as I said, you really want to do this from a different starting note every day. And then you're forced to find different connections. Hey, by the way, wasn't it beautiful? We had that moment where the A minor went like this. C, A, E, and then it went to a C minor. And this sort of exercise is how I learned to find those connections. And that's a beautiful way to connect this chord to this chord. So it's showing that this note is in A minor and that note's in C minor. And that can be a beautiful thing to try and play with when you're trying to get better at playing over these chords. So let's read through this. It's the same idea, of course, but this will be a different set of connections. So let's check out what this sounds like in this with this starting note. Why don't we read through at about this speed? So from the top, 2, 3, E minor, D, C, B7, E minor. Here we are on A, C. That's another one of those. You see how when you go from A, if you can picture that the A chord has this note, that's C sharp, and then when you're going from A, that's a beautiful smooth sound. So that's how I would. One thing I would hope would happen with this is you find ideas like that, and then you can use them when improvising. So, for example, I was trying to demonstrate the idea that picturing that connection at the end of A going into the C, I was going to try and use that in my improvising. Okay, so let's start on the A chord. We're going to go right there at measure 6. We'll begin on the high A note, the next measure. Yeah, beautiful. So we'll go 1, 2, 3. Switch to C. Now switch to B7. Now here we are on E minor. Here we are on D. Here we are on C. B7. A. And then still A. Now, honestly, if I were taking the repeat, I should begin my E minor right here, right where that left off. So you would, when you take the repeat, try and keep the idea going. But I forgot to do that on this particular exercise. Let's see. So let's go to the B part. Right there where it says D minor, measure, what is it, 16, 17? And let's read from there. We got 1, 2, 3. D minor. E minor. E minor. Oh. Hey, there's a mistake there. On the measure 2 of the B part, that should be a B natural. And it should be the 4th fret. Sorry about that. Yep, that should be a B natural. 4th fret, not the 3rd fret. I wish I had someone to blame but me, but it's my worksheet. Oh well. So let's look at that part. We got D minor, E minor with a B, B flat, A minor, C minor, D minor, C minor, B7. Oh no, it should be B natural too. There's another mistake. I'm sorry. So that last note of that measure that you're on right now, the 3rd note where it says B flat, that should be a B natural, the 2nd fret. So yeah, exactly. Sorry. I'll correct that and I can send that out after with the right notes. Okay, let's read the last couple of measures. And so bringing it home, we've got down on that E minor chord. It's going to go 1, 2, go. D, C, B7, A, still A, 4 more measures of A. That exercise is a lot less interesting when the chords don't change. But so let's see. That's the whole vibe. And basically I do that on any song. If I'm uncomfortable trying to improvise on it, this is what I would do. And if it's hard right now, an intermediate step would be to practice all of these arpeggios by themselves. So E minor, D, C, of course, etc. Just get to know each of those arpeggios across the whole range. If it's hard now, that will make it easier. If you can picture when it says C, all of these notes, and the same with B, etc. for all of those chords. So let's see. I think that's it with that tune. We're kind of running towards the end of our time. Do you have any questions? Yes, indeed. Support the festival and hopefully I'll see it in person someday. It's a beautiful It's a beautiful thing you guys are doing. Let's see. Maybe I'll just play through this tune once or twice, and I'll just show you how I might play it. So let's see how it goes. Oops, that's not right. Let's see. D minor. I have to stop. What I was trying to do when I was playing there was to try and show you how you might make some of those connections. So when I was playing, I was hoping you would hear some of those connections that I was trying to make. So
very nice, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a pleasure. I think it's a great opportunity to have you with us. I think everything was really well explained. Sorry about it. I think it's difficult, the feedback, because you are alone at your place and not, this is kind of workshop. With the other teachers, it was more or less the same, because you cannot feel the feedback or the faces. You don't know if people is taking a nap, a siesta, or people. But I can promise you that people is really interested. I, been reading some comments. People, I was chatting by the cell phone, because in Spain, some people is a little bit shy about questions. You are a great banjo player. Sorry, mandolin player. So sorry.
Professional deformation.
But I think it's great. During this year that is really difficult for everybody. I think we are happy to to have you doing the workshop, to be in touch, and great lesson. I cannot.
Thank you.
I cannot. I love your music. When you've been in Barcelona and we at the festival in Fuentes, I think I have to mention that you are really well known in the bluegrass scene. So it's great. I don't know if Isaac want to ask anything.
I have a question that I don't know if there's an answer to that, but the question is how can you play a melody so slow and so simple as you did in the first tune and make it sound so beautiful and interesting? And I know it's a compliment, but it's also a real question.
It's a difficult question to answer, but I think it's important to have variety even when it's very small. So like Grisman does that, right? He didn't do exactly that maybe twice. It's very similar. Right? So it's very, very small variations. I think that's part of it. A big part of it.
Yeah, and the tone too, right? And
One more
the tone you can produce too, right? Which is,
I think,
much more difficult
again,
to acquire.
Yeah, but again, like Grisman is such a great example. It's if the note sounds good, that might be enough. It might be, if it's a beautiful tone, you don't have to rush off to put more in.
Yeah.
I always remember that when I listen to him, that there's room for space.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. And
nice job on Mandolin Mondays. Nice job as well.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
I enjoyed that.
Thanks.
Cool. Let me say that mandolin players all around the world, especially in Europe, if you have any question, right now is the time. Joe is here. The workshop is over. We already did the 1 hour. I think he's playing many to cover two things that I think is really important, really nice. And so let's see if you have any question. Please go ahead. Okay, Antonio, taking your idea to 4/4. It's a question to you, Joe.
Sure. In 4/4, you could just. I often do 4 notes per chord. So imagine I did a blues in G, and then C, and then G for 2 bars, right? So you could do G, C, G. It's really, you could do any number of notes. If you're getting good at it, you could do. I guess 6 notes, maybe with it. That was 6, but something like that. It's really the only important thing, I think. Well, several important things. Proceed slowly so you understand it. And also, if you make yourself always connect in the same direction, you will learn many different ways to connect these chords. So,
cool.
Thank you.
Perfect. So, if no more questions, mandolin players all around the world, please, we have a few minutes. If not, let me say that we can say that in April we are going to have another workshop from. We are going to try every month to do a workshop. I'm talking with, I think you know him, Adam Larive. I think you played together at the Joe Kidd Sorrow, right?
Yeah, good friend.
Yeah, he's an amazing banjo player, and his weight play is great. So I mean, we are in touch, talking to him to do a workshop. But for in April, for sure, we are going to have a Michael J. Miles, the clawhammer banjo player, is going to teach a 1 hour workshop in 22 April. Yes, thank you, John Manel. He's the man of the technology. So if no more questions, thank you very much, Joe. It's a pleasure to have you. Take care, stay safe, play the beautiful music that you usually offer to us, and we learn a lot from you, from YouTube, the Peghead Nation, and the new album. Thank you, John Manel. It's great. And I think just to remember to all the people, please, if you can donate something to us, we have the PayPal account, or you can contact by the email if you want to put a bank transfer money, up to you. But please support the bluegrass music, the bluegrass scene in Barcelona, all around the world, and especially to Joe and this wonderful and great workshop. So thank you very much. And do you want to say something, John Manel? Up to you.
Well, there is a question that David is asking where they can sign up to follow this group. You can follow us in Facebook and YouTube. The channel is Al Ras Festival, and also in Facebook there is another channel that is called Barcelona Bluegrass Camp. But the announcements will be done in both platforms. In following just Al Ras Festival in Facebook or in YouTube.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Thank you very much, everybody, and see you next month in April with Michael G. Miles. And thank you, Joy. Thank you very much. A big hug.
Thank
And
you
stay
so
safe.
much. Be safe. Be safe.
Yeah.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Bye.